Major League scout Jeremy Booth. Philadelphia Phillies come away with a 6-5 win in Game 1 here at Minute Maid. I think, Jeremy, when we look back at this game, missed opportunities. You're up 5-0. You have 2 home runs from Kyle Tucker. Justin Verlander cannot hold the lead. This does not happen to these Astros. It happened just 3 times that Justin Verlander this season has allowed 5 earned runs or more. 2 of them have now come in the playoffs, including this game tonight.
You know, look, this postseason is about playing your best baseball, and Phillies are hot. The Astros came in just as hot. This is one of those games that, 5-5, 6-5. It's just a type of game you'd expect. You didn't expect a blowout either way. It's uncharacteristic, no doubt, to give up a 5-run lead. It's uncharacteristic to have the way they got the 5 runs as well. I'll say this. Verlander was the opposite of what he usually is. He was very good early, and then tired on in the 4th inning and never recovered. The questions you're really going to have isn't whether or not this is one game they gave away, because they gave it away. That's the way it is. In a 7-game series, we talk about this all the time. 2 games are yours, 2 games are theirs, and then the other 3 are for grabs. This isn't a yours or theirs. This is one of those 3 that's up for grabs. That's what makes this a little tough to take. This isn't when you played your best baseball. This is a 1-run game you have to win.
Now, you may have heard some fans in the background. Philadelphia fans here are pumped. I mean, the Philadelphia Phillies fans here, our photojournalist Sergio Soto was saying that many of them are acting like perhaps they've won the World Series. Granted, this is only Game 1. A lot of powder blue 1980s Phillies jerseys over there leaving the ballpark. We just got done listening to Dusty Baker in his post-game news conference. A big thing in this game was, other than Justin Verlander, was the bullpen usage in the latter innings. He said that the reason they went with Luis Garcia and not Ryan Stanek was this. He hit a good pitch, and then pitching Garcia over Stanek, talking about Real Muto's home run, that he hit a good pitch, but also that they were looking for some length. And obviously, Luis Garcia can give you 4 or 5 innings. Ryan Stanek cannot, and that was the matchup. What they were looking for was a little length in that position. Your thoughts on that? Listen, if it works out,
here's my thoughts on that. Okay,
Dusty's a genius.
Here's my thoughts on that. Dusty Baker has earned, I got to say this. I have to say this. I talk about Lance McCullers in the same breath, same way in the rotation. He's earned the right to get into that bullpen and run his team the way he sees fit. A couple things before we get into the bullpen management or one thing in particular that stood out. The Astros need a left-hand bat off the bench. It's pretty clear they were missing that tonight in certain situations to come up and hit. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to lose the World Series over it. It means that was the need.
Yeah.
Here's my concern isn't so much tonight with Ryan Stanek or Garcia over Ryan Stanek. My concern is Ryan Stanek and Jose Urquidy, too, for that matter, have been non-existent in the postseason. So when you need them for any kind of length, or you need them for a couple of innings, or even one stop inning, how fresh are they?
Well, Ryan Stanek is not going to throw more than 1 inning.
Yeah, but even in 1 inning in that situation, before you go get some length right away, you can't go to him now. He hasn't thrown the ball. He hasn't done anything. You've got guys that you've relied on all year that just aren't touching the baseball at all in the postseason, and we've seen that get managers into trouble. I will never forget 2019 against the Washington Nationals when A.J. Hinch went to Will Harris 916 times in 5 days, and you get into a situation where, Harris comes in, and ironically Howie Kendrick's in the other dugout now as a coach. You get in there, and he's throwing a slider or a cutter down and away to Hendrick, and he hits it off that foul pole out there, I believe. I mean, the bottom line is you can't go to the same guys again and again and again. You have a 26-man roster. You have a 6-man rotation. You need to be able to use these guys earlier in the series so they're ready now. Now it shows up tonight. I don't have any problem with the way the decisions were made as far as who he went to because who he believes in. My concern is you should have more options ready to go than just that one.
I don't know. I think that other than Stanek and Garcia, I think that the rest of the game really played out well when it looks when you look at the bullpen. I mean, Abreu didn't allow a run in 1 2/3. Neris was nails, comes in, bases loaded, gets the huge strikeout in the 7th. Montero was good. Presley was good. Really, it came down to one pitch.
Well, but you can't come down to one pitch, because what if Garcia is the guy that's Will Harris this year for all we know.
He's not, though.
Yeah,
He's
maybe.
a guy that gives him length.
Sure, but why length right there? Now, I'm not challenging. That was his decision. What I'm saying is you have to have other options besides having to go get that guy. If you use Abreu and you use Neris and you use Santa Claus, I don't care who you're using. You have to be able to be in a situation to go get somebody for another short burst if you have to. Now, if you get past the 10th inning and you only get some length, I have no questions. And I'm not even going to argue with the decision to do it then, because he's earned the right to not have that argue. What I am saying is you have to have more personnel available than the same guys all the time in that situation. Maybe one more guy gives you another inning. This game was over in 10?
Yeah.
Okay, so then that going for that length right there doesn't necessarily play out. What happens if you get to the 11th? Go to the 10th to get Stanek, but you can't go get him. That's the point. You can't go get him now and say, hey, man, we need you in a lot high leverage inning. You haven't thrown since, through one game in the LDS, 1 inning?
Well, he also threw in the ALCS.
Okay, 1 inning. Much has he thrown?
But here's the thing: when you're talking about having guys available, they just came off a 5-6 day break.
You have to have more options than the same guys over and over again. You have all these guys back in the bullpen. Are they on the roster? Is Stanek on the roster?
Yeah.
Is Urquidy on the roster?
Yep, he's on.
What for? We're not using them. What are they here for?
Okay.
That's my point. You can't just go. You have a 26-man roster. You even added Will Smith to this roster, if I'm correct, right?
You did.
You had Will Smith, you have Ryan Stanek, and you have all this extra pitching.
Hunter Brown, Jose Urquidy were the other guys.
Okay,
left.
so hold on a second. You got Hunter Brown, who I forgot about. You got Hunter Brown. You got Ryan Stanek, who I believe led the bullpen in ERA.
Yep.
Okay.
Lowest ERA in Astros reliever history.
You have I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
The lowest ERA for reliever in team history.
Got it. So you have Jose Urquidy, who we all know, and now you've got, what was the other one? There was one more in there.
Hunter
Brown. And there was Will Smith, Hunter Brown, Ryan Stanek, Jose Urquidy. All 4 of those guys are good. Why are we going to the same guys again and again and again? That's my point. Again, I got to be clear. This guy's a good manager. He's done a lot of good stuff. And I understand the decision to go there in the 10th inning. Of all those 4 options, man, one more inning is not going to kill me. I'm going to get somebody that's got some fire, and I'm neutralizing those guys before I go get some. And not that Garcia's bad, and not that I don't want him to pitch multiple innings, because I do, especially with all those guys we're talking about. But I got to give somebody else the ball and have somebody ready to go. And none of those 4 guys were ready to go in that situation because they haven't been used.
Justin Verlander, we just heard from him. He said on his 4th and 5th innings, I wrote down the pitches. He threw 54 pitches combined or total in those 2 innings. I don't know if he's done that all season. My guess is he hasn't.
Yeah.
He said that basically he wasn't executing. He got some traffic on the bases and wasn't able to make the pitches he wanted to.
He said they hit their mistakes hard. That's what I got out of that. I said that too. And he said, all that kind of ties into I'm not executing. I made mistakes.
Why
right?
wasn't he executing, though?
Well,
he was on fire in those first few innings.
Usually that's a delivery flaw. It's certainly not a concentration thing, unless he started, kind of changing his focus. I don't see that happening.
No.
Something happens delivery. Maybe he wasn't as loose. He's not going to tell us that tonight. Sounds like it's an excuse. At the end of the day, the way he went about it and the way those guys went to it, you've got to have a situation there where you pull yourself out of those pretty, as fast as you can. It's the World Series. And Dusty Baker made a point. He said, Justin Verlander 99% of the time pulls himself out of that. He's right. He does. And Justin Verlander 99% of the time with a 5-run lead, 99.9% of the time, doesn't go there. But this is still today, not yesterday and not tomorrow. It's today. So you have to be able to understand where that's going. Can't fault the decision. Should have gone the other way. But the Phillies are a good mistake-hitting team. We talked about before the game.
Yep.
Talked about during the game. And when you make mistakes to a lineup that's got Schwarber, who's a mistake hitter, Harper, who's a very good hitter, also a mistake hitter, Hoskins, who's a mistake hitter, Real Muto, who's a good hitter but doesn't miss mistakes. And you keep going down the line, those mistakes will add up, and it just got to just Verlander in that window.
All right, lots of comments here.
I bet.
Lots of comments. Chris says Dusty Baker is not a clutch manager. That's why we lost tonight. That's why he's never won as a manager. Poor decision-making. I think you and I both know yes, he's the ultimate decision maker, but there's a lot of other voices and analytics that go into the options that he has when it comes to making decisions like that.
So the Will Harris thing in 2019, I was blaming that on analytics because they weren't getting off the script.
No.
Okay? This one I'm not.
Okay.
Because they're Ryan Stanek's numbers and even Hunter Brown's numbers since he's got here.
Well, listen, Dusty mentioned a few minutes ago that, yes, it was Ryan Stanek, or Luis Garcia. They were looking for length.
Okay,
there.
I get it, and I keep hearing it,
Yeah.
and I hear it's the 10th inning. If it's into the 11th, I'm going for length. I'm looking at who's in the lineup, and I'm coming up with somebody that's going to knock out that inning, and I just don't have enough confidence in Ryan Stanek if I'm Dusty Baker because I haven't used him. I don't know how fresh he is. And if I'm going to go to Hunter Brown, let's not forget, a lot of guys make their name.
Not fresh, you mean sharp.
Sharp. Well, there's a lot of guys who thank you for that.
No
That's
problem.
What I mean.
No problem.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say this. Some people
think that there's animosity going on
could
here.
love this guy more. We're good. Thanks for the concern. But when it comes to a guy like Hunter Brown, that's a fresh arm.
Yeah.
That's a big arm. That's somebody who is untested in this type of situation. So maybe you don't go to him, but you have to have more options, and you can't just lock yourselves into the same guy again and again and again.
We have someone saying they used Verlander in Game 1, so are they reserving him for 5 and through 7? Typically, your Game 1, Game 2 starters, they will pitch twice because they're your horses, and yes, they will be used multiple times in a series. What else do we have? Let's see. Pablo says sit Mancini and Altuve. Dusty needs to change things up. You are not sitting Jose Altuve. Now, Mancini, that's a different conversation. It is.
Is it a different conversation?
It is a different conversation. The reason Jeremy's smiling is because on Twitter during the game, I posted a scouting report of Jeremy's when he was scouting for the Seattle Mariners
Did I ever write any of those?
So he wrote a scouting report when Trey Mancini was playing at Notre Dame, and Jeremy wrote basically that Trey Mancini had, if he didn't hit, he had no value, and he was a backup first baseman, DH in the major leagues. I would argue he has played a little bit above that level. Now he is a backup first baseman, DH. Having said all that, yes, Trey Mancini in the 8th inning did not look good in his at-bat. I would guess we will see Aledmus Diaz at DH in the next game.
Trey Mancini is a nice player. You want to have him. He's a right-handed bat. He's a streaky hitter. You got, to me, anytime you're evaluating players, you got to take them out of that first peak year or whatever peak year they have and their low year. Those are not averages. You tie the rest of them together, you're going to get what you're going to get. You're going to get something about 17, 18 home runs, 19 home runs a year out of Mancini, and about 260. That's what you're going to get. That's a second division first baseman playing every day. You don't win a World Series with that. You win a World Series with guys like Rhys Hoskins or with Gurriel when he was hot, hitting 330, 340. Right.
Yeah.
That's the guys you win with. So, or Yordan Alvarez, could he play there? Those type of bats is what you get. Now,
he can't play there, but go ahead.
Right. Could he? But that said, I do think Mancini needs to sit. Altuve's never going to sit. He's going to play second base every day. I agree with you on Mancini.
The bats have not looked good for Jose.
Yeah, the disappointing thing for me with Altuve tonight wasn't even the at bats. It was a fly ball in the shallow center, kind of a triangle play. For those of you at home, triangle.
That was in the ninth. Was in the ninth.
A triangle is when 3 players can converge in one spot. That's a triangle. 1, 2, 3. And so the ball falls in the triangle, and Jose's frustrated out of the box. It's 9th inning, tie game, and he jogs to first base. He's a 4-1 runner down the line, 4-2 runner down the line. That's a plus runner still. On a scouting scale, it's 5 is average. That's a 6 or a 7. If he's running hard out the box in the 9th inning, that ball, by the time he touched first base, barely hit the ground. That means it's about 6 seconds on a jog. He's halfway to second base. He's sitting there standing up at second. Then you have the stolen base play at second base. You don't know what happens at third. Bottom line is you get a better opportunity. So that, to me, that was disappointing with Altuve. Shows me his at-bats are getting to him a little bit. He's got to get himself going. No ifs, ands, or buts. He's got to get himself going. The Astros are a very good lineup, 1 through 6. 7, 8, 9 are a little bit suspicious. Hitter, feast or
8
famine,
and 9 has been pretty good.
Yeah, at times, and sometimes it has not. So you have to be able to produce when he's in those situations. He absolutely still needs to play.
Lennis says JV did not lose us the game; they just outplayed us. I don't know if I would agree with that. I think Justin Verlander, given a 5-0 lead, Justin Verlander, 98 times out of 100, 99 times out of 100, he shuts the door. I mean, he is a guy that will pitch your 5 or 6, 7 innings with a 5-0 lead and win a game. The stat they showed on the broadcast was it was either 153 wins and 2 losses or 163 wins and 2 losses when Verlander had 5 runs or more of support.
Yeah, it's an anomaly. There's no question about it. I don't know that I'd say any one player loses a baseball game. I don't think it ever goes that way. There's always different turning points, different at-bats, different innings, different situations that can help as a collective. What I would say, though, is that I understand Dusty's decision to continue with him in the 4th and the 5th inning with those type of numbers on the board. I also understand that Justin Verlander made a lot of mistakes and didn't correct fast enough, and the Philadelphia Phillies, again, are a very good mistake-hitting team. They just didn't miss. That's big league baseball, guys, and that's the World Series. That's how teams get here.
Jason Bristol, former Major League scout Jeremy Booth, joining us right now as we continue to talk Game 1 of the World Series, a 6-5 win for the Phillies. Second largest comeback by an NL team in World Series history. Teams with a 5+ run differential.
This is going to be fun.
589 and 18 entering this game, and now it's 589 and 19 after the Astros lose. One of the bright spots, obviously, was Kyle Tucker. He took a changeup in the second, hit the big home run, and then the 3-run shot in the third. That was off a sinker. Got to really be impressed with those early at-bats against a tough pitcher in Aaron Nola by Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, the path has changed so dramatically for him from when he first got here. The approach, the where he sets his eyes, the consistency in contact, it's all different. You guys remember when he got here, he was chasing balls over his head in the World Series. Now he's zoning the ball down a little bit. He's seeing it in the strike zone. He's playing in front of the plate. Those are all terms to me. He's turned himself into a good hitter. So the ability that he's got naturally in him has come out. It's something. It's fun to watch. It's certainly a force in the lineup. Verlander stays one of the best hitters in baseball. Players will tell you. I'll leave that to them. Players will tell you who they'd rather have facing or who they'd rather have in the box. Kyle Tucker has a chance to carry a ball club now, and he's definitely a key cog in the machine.
All right. When you look at also this ball game, Alex Bregman played some stellar defense. That's what you expect from him. Jeremy Pena had an up-and-down game. The double in the third. The pop-out in the ninth where he juggled it.
That's driving me nuts. I mean, that's the type of stuff for me that I'm like, that's what you can't do.
No.
You cannot do that.
You can do that in May. No, you can't do that
in May either. You can't one-hand a ball and have it almost pop out in the biggest stage in the game. You can't. And look, he's a kid. He'll learn from it. I mean, it's not like he dropped the ball. But you start adding some of these things up, and I hate to say these guys took a little bit too lightly because I don't want to say that. It's the World Series. But Altuve not running the ball out, and Pena, is uncharacteristic of these guys to have seen this happen. So I think maybe they just refocus and circle back to tomorrow.
The good thing is that you have another ace, if you will, in Game 2, that being Framber Valdez. He will get the start against Zach Wheeler. Framber has been number 1A for this team, and I can't imagine it will be any different in Game 2. He's home. The crowd will be behind him.
Yeah.
I'm expecting a solid start from Framber Valdez.
Yeah, me too. When he's on, he's tough to beat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Verlander Valdez thing is, it's funny. I was talking to some scouts. I'm not going to name who they were. In New York. And we talked about, 1 and 2, if you get one out of there, you're pretty lucky, right? That's how good people think of Valdez. Most people around the league will think about Verlander. Valdez is kind of hiding in plain sight here sometimes, even as good as he is, as much as we know him in Houston, but because he's behind Justin Verlander. It doesn't mean that he's not what he could be. It doesn't mean he can't carry his staff. He can. He's got to come in tomorrow, and he's got to deliver. He's got to throw some zeros on the board. It's a must-win situation for the Astros. They got to get one at home. You don't want to go into Philly, into that place, down 2-0. And if you think about this, if you guys look ahead, we don't know what Game 3 is going to bring yet, but the Phillies in Game 4 are probably going with a bullpen game. Okay, that means that if McCullers lines back up in Game 4, and we saw what that start was in New York, that's the right game for him. That's the right one with his health and the way the weather and the breaking balls and the feel that he's going to have and the pitch counts is to let him go as far as he can one time in the series in a bullpen game, right, against the Phillies. The Astros can go get tomorrow, and they go in. Even if they lose Game 3, I'm not saying they will, then they have a chance at Game 4. It's 2-2 going into Game 5, and we're coming back for Game 6. Does that make sense? Back for Game 6. I think the Astros can get tomorrow, get Game 3, get Game 4. and still come back here with 2 shots to win it. So it's important, though, that they do not go down 2-0 going into Philly, as hot as they've been and as rabid as that fan base is going to be.
Well, the big thing for the Astros is they have never won a Game 1 of the World Series. They still have not won a Game 1 of the World Series. And
I didn't know that. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, was it 2019 that the road team won every game?
I believe so.
We going to do that again? We can't do that again. I don't want to do that again.
That was when Jose Urquidy had his coming out party in
still
Washington.
Here?
Yeah, he is.
Are we sure he's still on the roster?
Alan says, hi, Alan. The way you guys are seeing Astros fans speak of JV right now is how Nola was being talked about during the early innings from Phillies fans. It's a team game. Remember how much Verlander has done all season for the Astros to get them this far. Yes. But again, this is... It's a little different, I would say, right now when you look at Astros and the Phillies. The Astros now, this is their 4th World Series in 6 years. And the Phillies, while they are a deserving team to be here, it's a little different situation. There is a certain expectation now in Houston that really nothing else matters except for the postseason. And yes, you can perform during the regular season. That's how you get a 16-game lead in the division or whatever the Astros had. It all comes down to 11 wins after the 162. That's what it comes down to in this city.
The expectation has changed, and if you're in Houston, we're all aware of the status of the sports franchises that are here. Okay, I think we good with that. We don't have to talk, we're aware.
Yeah.
Okay. The Astros are something that have had an exceptional run now for the last 7 years through a couple different front offices. And started, believe it or not, this whole process was started back in 2008. People don't realize that. It was started in 2008, started to show up in 2012 and 13, and really arrived in 15 and 16. And you have a chance that's now going to extend 5-6 more years. But the absolute expectation has changed here. This is not something where getting to the World Series is good enough. This is not the Atlanta Braves of the 1990s. Right? 5 World Series or 4 World Series, won 1. Okay. Astros expect to win, and they got the best team in the game.
Well, the Braves expected to win, and they had the best
They didn't have the best team in the game. You had the Yankees back then. You had some other clubs that were pretty good. The Astros got the best team in baseball. It's a different era, but you're not going to come here and go 4 to 5 World Series and win 1. This club's ready to win. I hear your point about Verlander versus Nola. What I would say is Verlander, and the common thread is what they're doing for the team. But I'll tell you, Nola is a lot younger, right? Aaron Nola was drafted in 2014, so he's 27, 28, 29. Verlander at this point is 38. That's a different era of where they are in their career.
And he came back here to win a World Series.
The concern about Justin Verlander for me is he has an ERA over 6 in the World Series, that he doesn't do real well in the World Series. And I don't know if that's intent. I don't know if that's intent as far as how he throws his pitches. I don't know if that's tempo. I don't know if that's fatigue. I don't know what that is. But it seems to be an issue in the World Series for him for whatever reason. It doesn't mean I don't have any less confidence in him. It's just how it's working out.
One guy who has to get going in this Astros lineup is Yordan Alvarez. Yordan Alvarez, 2 strikeouts in this game. He was 0 for 4 with a walk. When you look at what he did earlier in the ALDS when he basically carried this team.
Yeah.
But since then, he has been somewhat quiet. I mean, coming into this series, 241 with those 2 home runs that against the Mariners with 8 runs driven in. This team is a different operation when Yordan Alvarez is swinging a hot bat. Now, one thing I've tend to notice in the games after those first 2 games in Seattle, Yordan Alvarez is seeing a lot of pitches up and away. Now, the at-bat against Robertson in the 10th, where Robertson, that was a worm killer, man. That ball was about 50 feet 5 inches into the dirt, and Alvarez swung. So he's a guy that the Astros need to get going to have a chance to rally and come back in this series.
Well, what you can't do if you're the Houston Astros is have Justin Verlander make mistakes, have Altuve be non-existent, Alvarez somewhere in the dugout with his bat, and Mancini or whoever's in the DH hole not performing. That's 3 outs in your lineup. That takes your 9 guys to 6. You have to have Alvarez perform. You got to have Altuve. You can miss 1. You can't miss 2. And when you get to a situation where Alvarez is chasing balls in the 10th, he's feeling it too, right? So up and away is a tough pitch for a left-hand hitter to hit. they're going to pitch him up there at the top of the zone. They're going to make him beat him. If he's not beating them there, or they don't get the ball there, they're going to try to bury it. He's looking the velocity. He's looking up and away. And it's something called predetermined to swing, which means, guys, he's already made his mind up. He's going to swing at a pitch like that. He's got way better plate discipline. He was looking to swing. He was in swing mode, and he didn't stop himself.
Alan also says exactly, Jeremy, Phils and Strohs both could use bullpen improvements. I don't know exactly what that means. I will tell you that the Astros had the best bullpen in baseball. Now, is it the thing where you were talking about how they are using the same guys over and over, and maybe it's a bit predictable, or they're sticking to a script? Maybe. But in terms of the actual guys in the
personnel,
bullpen, the personnel, this is for anyone that's really followed us a lot throughout the season and during the playoffs, this may not be the most talented team the Astros have had, but in my opinion, it's the most complete team the Astros have had.
It's a pretty good club. I don't have any issues with the way the bullpen's put together. As a matter of fact, I would say James Cook did a pretty good job putting this bullpen together.
Very good.
What I would also say, though, is, again, you hit the nail on the head. I do not believe that you use the same guys again and again and again. You burn guys out. Relievers are not meant to do that. They're not meant to pitch that many innings that consistently, because of how they go about their business, because of where their mind is, where the up tempo is. You know, the huffing and puffing guys doing. It's not what it's for. And if you continue to do that, you will burn guys out. And Dusty's a big field manager, and he goes into managing with what he thinks is going to get it done. Stays consistent, stays loyal. In the World Series, and man, look, I just have a hard time trying to tell this guy how to manage a baseball team. But what I will say is, in the World Series, you really, and I mean really, got to go with the hot hand at that moment in time. It doesn't have to be. You have to have everybody ready to go. You can't, because every game, every inning, every pitch matters. It matters more than the ALDS, matters more than the ALCS. It's the World Series. There is no more tomorrow. And just like that, a series can turn on its head. And we've seen that happen every year we've done this now.
Yep. All right, well, once again, the story from here at Minute Maid Park, the Houston Astros losing Game 1 of the World Series to the Phillies, 6-5 in 10 innings. The Astros had a 5-0 lead. They could not hold it. Justin Verlander cannot get the job done, and the Astros then lose the game in the 10th, Luis Garcia giving up a home run to JT Realmuto. So once again, thanks to all of you for watching us. He's Jeremy Booth. I'm Jason Bristol. What's going on over there?
I don't know. There's people all over the place.
Okay. Anyways.
Stepping on the grass.
Oh, yeah. Anyhow, that's what we've got cooking here. Again, the Astros losing Game 1 of the World Series, and of course, keep it locked here as we'll be talking after Game 2. We'll see what happens. Framber Valdez, Zach Wheeler in Game 2 of the World Series. Good night, everybody.